I'm going to share the side of the room. If you got an open spot, raise your hand. You got one up there? Can't block the driveway. Grab overflow in the chapel, we can run it over in the chapel. 13 people, watching on TV. So
Saving the seats, right? Evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Thank you for being here tonight. Before we go any further, I'd like to thank the church and for their support and their staff support, helping us put this together, and the unexpected surprise of having some popcorn and coffee. But I understand the best popcorn makers in the world. So you guys can be the judge about that. It seems pretty good to me. Tonight we've got quite a bit to cover, as you can imagine. Holly Maddie is here from Crossroads, sitting to my left, and she will be doing the core of the presentation before we open things up to questions. I would ask that we hold questions until Holly's done. She's got about 18 PowerPoint slides, and there's not a lot of words on it. So the key here is to kind of do some education for everybody, to set a baseline of start to set the baseline, because not only you, but all the rest of us are still learning about where we're heading in this journey. So, as we said this morning on the Zoom, and we'll probably say it time and time again, this is the beginning of a journey. Nothing's been decided. The Strategic Planning Committee is pleased to host you and welcome you here tonight to help you get a better handle on what we think we're about to embark upon. And then over the course of the next 8 months, we all have a chance to talk a lot more and get further understanding. So tonight is hopefully a listen and learn, ask some questions. When the time comes to we're going to have some note cards around to hand out. If you would rather give us a note card rather than go up to the mic here in the center. So please respect the fact that there's a lot of people here tonight, and we'd like people to get a chance to ask their questions. And the fact is, we may not get to all of them. I think we're going to try to not run past 8:30. At least that's my goal. We'll see how well I did on that here in a little bit. And I guess there's always next Wednesday, if you'd like to come back and continue your questions at that point. So, having said that, just a couple of introductions. As I said, the meeting tonight is hosted by the Strategic Planning Committee, a advisory committee appointed by the trustees going back to February of 2022. Holly's going to talk more. I think we have all but one of the members here tonight, so you all stand up when I call your name. Carl Richardson, who I know you know, Township trustee. Jim Steele-Smith, who is on it also as a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals because we wanted representation from them. Mike Cannon, zoning inspector, is over here. Tom Mead, wherever Tom here is, he's hiding all the way in the back, and he's on the zoning commission as well as participating with us. And then there are 3 of us who are resident at large numbers. Molly Snodgrass, who will be coming up to join me in a little bit. Bruce McClary, who is out of town tonight, he'll be here next Wednesday. And I, Steve Eisenbrun. While we're calling out dignitaries here tonight, we've got Carl, we've got Dave Jackson, and I don't know if I saw Matt Yeager walk in, but I heard he might be coming as well. This is part of the ongoing learning process. So that's it. Let's get on with the show here, and I'd like to introduce Molly Hattie to take us through the presentation. We have 2 Mollies, 2 Hollies, and so it's not an excuse, but that's my excuse. So,
I didn't do anything, so it's okay.
there you go.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. As we said, my name is Holly Maddie. I'm with Crossroads Community Planning, and I'm with the firm that is assisting Harlem Township with planning for the anticipated but unprecedented growth expected in the township.
You couldn't even plan for parking.
We appreciate everyone coming out tonight. We know that yesterday's news may have been a shock to many of you, and our goal tonight is to explain how the township arrived to the idea of merging with the city of Westerville. Next slide, please. Tonight, we will be reviewing the township planning efforts for the past couple of years. As you may expect, in a rapidly growing region, there are evolving conditions and sometimes unexpected changes. We will be reviewing these changes with you and how they affected the township's thought process moving forward. One thing that has not changed is that the township has needed, we've said from day one, the township needs a strategic partner. We've said that the township has very limited powers and it must partner with the municipality to remain a viable community. We will explain our criteria for choosing the township strategic partner. And as you all have probably heard by now, or you wouldn't be here, is the thought is to potentially merge with the city of Westerville. This is not an annexation. We will be exploring the differences between an annexation and a merger, as well as the benefits to you as residents if a merger were to be approved. We will round out the evening with discussing next steps. Let's be clear tonight that nothing is set in stone, and we are only at the very beginning of exploring this option. There are many steps that would have to be taken in order for a merger to take place. Next slide, please. The past 3 years have been quite the journey for Harlem Township. In late 2021, the township, with the assistance of the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission, completed its comprehensive plan focusing on large lot rural development with neighborhood, commercial, and key locations. While the township was already feeling the stresses of potential development, the announcement of Intel in January 2022 exacerbated these development pressures, causing the township to quickly shift gears. So it already saw that early on how the township needed to shift gears. The township understood that large lot rural development was no longer a viable option. A strategic planning committee, which was just described to you by Steve, was formed in February of 2022. And the township hired our firm to help assist with developing a quick strategy guide, which was adopted in March of 2023. This guide does not replace the 2021 comprehensive plan. It is merely a supplemental document to provide strategy to plan and respond to the rapidly changing landscape. Both the 2021 comprehensive plan and the 2023 quick strategy guide have the same overarching vision of protecting the rural character. During the development of this guide, we held a series of community meetings to educate residents on the importance of preparing for development rather than letting development happen to the township, and how the rural character can be retained through these planning efforts. Next slide, please. Since the township adopted the quick strategy guide, the township has successfully completed several of the recommendations within the plan in one short year. Several subcommittees were created to divide and conquer the work. For example, a developer subcommittee meets with developers to explain the township's vision and to ensure that the developers understand that vision. The developer subcommittee also meets with landowners in the township to understand their future plans and to educate them on the evolving conditions in the township. And this helps the township to understand where land may be transferred to developers, where landowners want to keep their land. So it's been able to help them properly plan going forward. Another subcommittee that was formed was the infrastructure subcommittee. They have been meeting frequently with utility providers such as water and sewer and roadway authorities, including the county engineer and ODOT. This group has also played a role in understanding AEP plans for future transmission lines and has served as an advocate for the township's vision while AEP was determining the alignment of these future lines. The Communications Subcommittee is another committee that was formed, in recommendation coming out of the, quick strategy guide. And they've been meeting and been very instrumental in providing frequent updates to the township residents through email blasts, township website and social media. The ability to communicate on a more frequent basis has been made possible through a collection of over 450 township resident email addresses. Every time we have one of these community meetings, we ask for you to sign up and we ask if you want to be added to that list. And over the course of the year, we've been able to get 450 addresses to get that message out. Next slide, please. Finally, the township has been very instrumental in moving forward with zoning for the township. Zoning is extremely important to implement the township's vision. As you can see on this slide, the township has adopted 3 overlay districts ranging from clustered residential to employment-based districts, all with design standards that reflect the rural vision of the township. In 2023, we held a series of community meetings to help educate residents on the threat of annexation and the need for these overlay zoning districts to help to reduce the likelihood of annexation into a community with zoning that does not reflect the township's vision. Tonight, I will reiterate that there are 2 main reasons that a landowner would seek annexation. The first is to access zoning that increases the density and intensity of the use on the land. The second is access to utilities. With the adoption of these overlay districts, the township has now set the stage for zoning. We'll talk about utilities in a moment. Next slide, please. The township has made great strides since adopting the quick strategy guide a year ago, but there's still more work to be done. The guide calls for the need for an east-west connector, identifying priority sanitary sewer line locations, a township-wide stormwater management plan, and key park and bikeway connections. Each of these right now are controlled by various state and county agencies. It is not something the township can control on their own. And each of them all have different budgets, different abilities to do different things. So it's all in different silos, requiring coordination among many to create a comprehensive approach to these planning efforts. Additionally, as we discussed in our community meeting last year, townships have limited ability to raise revenue to cover increased infrastructure, emergency, and administrative service costs. The quick strategy guide recommends that the township identify a strategic partner, a municipality, to allow the township to generate funds for the long-term financial stability of the community. The guide recommends utilizing joint economic development districts, otherwise known as JED, new community authorities, otherwise known as NCA, and tax increment finance districts, otherwise known as TIPs. The guide recommends that we use these with the strategic partner, again, municipality, to help generate the necessary revenue to offset rising costs. Next slide, please. While JED, TIPs, and NCAs, they all can help generate these funds, they only work when utilities are available. While the sewer is still expected to be in Harlem Township by 2026, the infrastructure subcommittee over the last 12 months has found that the water and sewer are not following as quickly as anticipated. This increases the threat of annexation by municipalities that can provide these utilities. So that's a raising concern that continues to be a threat to the township. If you could go to the next slide, please. In addition, news keeps coming out about different things every day. And as recently as January 30th, and again on February 18th, the Columbus Dispatch reported on a study completed by the Central Ohio Building Industry Association, otherwise known as the BIA, to address the Columbus housing crisis. This study recommends eliminating zoning from non-limited home rule townships, which is Harlem Township, and pushing zoning to the county level. The study conducted by the BIA includes other recommendations such as eliminating referendums as well as other policy changes. While Harlem Township does not expect its zoning to be taken away in the near future, it is still a real threat that the township must continue to keep its eye on. It's also important to note that under this proposed recommendation in this study, that a municipality zoning would not be affected, and municipalities would retain their ability to zone within their borders. Next slide, please. You may recall this map from the 2023 community meeting showing the 5, 10, and 15-minute drive times from the Intel and New Albany site. The majority of Harlem Township is within a 15-minute drive from the site. If you recall, in those meetings, we discussed Chandler, Arizona, and what happened there after they built first Intel site in that community. The entire area within around 15 minutes of the Chandler site was developed within 10 years of that plant opening. We stated in 2023 that we anticipated a similar growth pattern once utilities are available. We are now 2 years from the Intel being announced in New Albany, but our 10-year clock hasn't started ticking yet because the utilities are not available. So just because we haven't seen this rapid growth out in the field right now in the past 2 years, it doesn't mean that it's not coming and it's not going to happen. It's just delayed until the infrastructure gets here. This map also illustrates how Harlem Township is surrounded on 4 sides by 6 different municipalities, all with different levels of ability to provide utilities and the threat of annexing into the township. And as you have 6 different communities coming at you, you can have 6 different visions, 6 different things slowly eroding away the township borders if those annexations would go forward because of utility aspects. This is a very unique situation, and this is why the township really needed to identify a strategic partner going forward. Next slide, please. So how did we, the township, choose its strategic partner? It started reviewing its neighboring communities. We started asking the same questions about each of those communities. We asked each other, what are the services each community can provide? What are the amenities that each community can provide? What is each community's vision? Ultimately, after we asked those questions and we discussed it, the township, we really realized the township's main goal was to find a partner that both aligns with its vision and can provide the infrastructure that protects the township from annexation. Westerville checked all of these boxes. They have a similar vision. They like the rural characteristics that we have in our plan. They have their own water service, and they have their own electric service. That will help to reduce the likelihood of annexation. Please go to the next slide, please. So the township approached Westerville. The conversation did not start out about a merger. The actual initial conversation with Westerville were about doing a joint economic development district, a JED. While the JED could provide protection to some portion of the township's borders, it would be a piecemeal approach, leaving several areas exposed to annexation by other communities. Remember, you have 6 communities coming towards you. The township was extremely concerned about these exposed areas, and the conversation started to expand to discuss a more comprehensive approach to protecting the township's vision, which led to the merger discussion. A merger would be a township-wide approach to water and electric services and provide all 4 borders from future annexation from other municipalities that do not share the township's vision. Once the land is merged together with the municipality, the other communities cannot annex. It has become one municipality at that point in time. Additionally, the city could provide public safety forces for the entire township. Right now, the township relies on the county sheriff. And the residents would have access to a variety of amenities, including a massive amount of parks, the Westerville Community Center, and senior services. And those would be for a reduced rate at residents. If we could go to the next slide. The township wants to ensure that everyone understands that a merger is not an annexation. Annexation is when a property owner initiates it, and it's on a case-by-case basis, and it's a piecemeal approach. When a property is annexed into a municipality, the township loses all control over the uses, design, and development standards for the future growth. A merger is a township and city initiative to incorporate the entire township into a municipality. In addition to being a comprehensive approach, it gives the township a seat at the table to negotiate its terms and its conditions for merging. In this particular case, the Strategic Planning Committee has made it clear that retaining township zoning standards will be a requirement for a merger agreement. That is a non-negotiable. Remember, zoning is very important to retaining the rural character of the community, and with our preliminary discussions with Westerville, they share this vision. Next slide, please. A merger also switches the township from playing defense to playing offense. It gives us time to plan because it removes the threat of annexation from other communities. Additionally, Westerville has the capacity to conduct a comprehensive design process under one umbrella to complete the unfinished recommendations of the quick strategy guide. Do you remember back 2 slides? We had all of these things that we wanted to still do. Flood connector, parks, township-wide stormwater management plan, all that are under different jurisdictions right now. All of that could be brought under one umbrella and completed in a comprehensive design approach. This comprehensive design process would take place after a merger is approved, but residents from the current township would have a seat at the table to help guide the outcome of this work. You can go to the next slide, please. There are many benefits to a merger, some of which we've already discussed. We've already discussed. The Strategic Planning Committee believes that retaining its zoning and protecting its heritage are at the heart of exploring the merger. The combined interest from both communities to explore a merger is just the beginning. If you could go to the next slide, we have a couple of slides. Nothing is set in stone at this time. We are simply exploring the potential to merge, and these are the benefits that we've identified so far that the township has pointed out at this point. Can you go to the next slide? The first step in this process will be for both communities to pass legislation to discuss the intent to merge. We anticipate the trustees considering this legislation at its March meeting. Once this legislation is adopted by both the city and the township, that starts a up to 120-day negotiation process that will take place to create a merger agreement. If we go to the next slide. If negotiations are successful, we anticipate a merger agreement being finalized in time to be placed on the November 2024 ballot for a vote by both the township and the city residents. The merger must be approved by a simple majority of the voters in both the city and the township. If it's approved by the voters, the date of the merger would be January 1st, 2025. Next slide, please. We know that there are a lot of questions and a lot of mixed emotions about yesterday's announcement. The township and the city have developed a frequently asked questions document, which hopefully most of you picked up when you came in. If you didn't, please get one on the way out. We've also developed a website that has some additional information on it. It's westervilleharlem.org. This website will be updated periodically as the process evolves. Tonight, the Strategic Planning Committee is here tonight to hear your initial thoughts and answer your questions. Of course, we want to make sure that everyone is heard and all your questions are answered. There are so many people here tonight that we would like you to keep it to one question and then let the next person go. We have a lot of questions to get through. And most likely, if you have a question, somebody's going to have a similar question to you. So if somebody has already asked this question, please don't repeat the question again. We have two ways that you can do questions. You can get, there were note cards out there that you could have grabbed. If you grab one and you want to write it down and pass it, I have Molly and George and Ben. If you're around, raise your hand. George is here. They're going to be walking around and they can gather your cards and we'll read your questions that way. Or if you want to actually ask your question, please come to the microphone and state your name and address and then ask your question. We're putting these guidelines in place just like we did in August of 2022 when we were here the first time we were talking about Intel being announced. We need to keep an orderly flow to this. We need to give everybody an opportunity. So that's why these guidelines are here. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it back to Steve and we're going to open it up to questions.
Good. Thanks, Molly. As I said, I got a couple of comments to make, but if you wanted a note card and rather than coming up to the mic, we have some folks walking around with the material and they will pass that out to you. You know, at the start of the evening, I said, look, we're at the start of the process. It's both, it has been an informal and a formal one, but it is now becoming much more formal. In January at our meeting, we said we needed a strategic plan. We've been saying that on and off over the last year or so. As Holly mentioned, there were informal conversations taking place with a number of municipalities, and in particular with Westerville, we got more and more focused as the time went on, exploring what the possibilities were, because we felt they could provide us the best option. We spent about 6 weeks up leading into a week ago, working with them to essentially do a due diligence process to vet with them, could they meet the requirements that we think are core for us to move forward. And so that led us into a lot of discussions around zoning and ordinance management. The fact that you still want to be able to shoot a gun and hunt on your land, drive a tractor on the road, and so forth. We've gotten through the due diligence, and that led us to believe that we were on a path that we should take further, which then led us last week to go to the trustees to ask for approval for the intent to pursue a strategic partnership with Western. And that is what leads us to yesterday. I do want to apologize to folks about a little bit of the randomness of how the news got released. I'll take the blame for that. Our internet builder made the site live the day before they were supposed to. And poor Molly had a great strategic plan laid out for communication, how we were going to get ahead of this. And that all went up in smoke, but that's just the way it goes. There's been some commentary out there around, well, this is gut fever. Or, you know, why wasn't this done out in the open? Again, the Strategic Planning Committee is an advisory committee to the township. And if we had, just imagine that if we thought this was something we wanted to investigate and went public with this back, say, in January, we would have had the same reaction before we even had the chance to understand, is this something we want to pursue? And do we think it could work for us? So that's the reason why it wasn't public and we had some non-public meetings. But we've gotten to the point where we are public. And to the degree you want to believe me or not, there was nothing nefarious going on. There's nobody on the strategic planning committee that would benefit from this either way if it doesn't work for the totality of Harlem Township.
How about letting that next
We have, thanks for your input. We have the first person lined up with the microphone. We'd be happy to have you come forward and make your questions. We have Holly here to answer, and then Carl and Molly are also here. They've been the face of our responses to the press over the last couple of days. So please come on up, state your name and your address, and we'll get on with the show. Well, you gotta get right on top of it. It's on, Mike, it's on. You gotta get close.
My name is Robin Wilson. I reside at 1363 Diesel Highland Road. I have a few questions. My first question would be to you, are there any pending annexation petitions?
I'm not aware of any.
None that we're aware of.
You're not aware of them, right? Okay, because I bring this up because, and I will read this quote from Paul Wise, Genoa Township Administrator. You may have seen news reports that neighboring Harlem Township and Westerville are considering a merger. Genoa Township does not face the same challenges and uncertainties as Harlem Township. The leadership of our township keeps abreast of current events and trends in Central Ohio government. Genoa Township is not considering a merger with any city, town, village, or other township, nor are we aware of any pending annexation petitions. There's been a lot of talk this evening of threats of annexation, so I wanted to clarify, are there any pending petitions? And there are none that you know of. All right. Also, reading the documentation in preparation.
Okay, next question. When you say we're gonna have a civil event here,
Yeah.
we said, please ask the question and let the next person ask the question. So please ask the next person ask the question. You can get back in line. No problem.
I'm Pat Howell, and I'm at 2464 State Route 605. Could you guys discuss a little bit this east-west connector? What do we know about it? Do we have a location
No,
sort of in mind?
no. So an east-west connector is a thought process that the traffic needs to move from the area of Intel to get over somehow to the western portion of the township and into the Delaware County area. We know people are going to live in Delaware County and work in Intel, and how does that traffic get back and forth? So it's just the idea of, we know that there has to be some way to move that traffic, but nothing other than that, which is one of the reasons why we feel a comprehensive study is needed to understand what that may need to look like in the future.
Robin Wildenstein, 1323. Diesel Highland Road. Your opinion. It was rather startling to read in the documentation the phrase former Harlem Township. Startling, disheartening, to read that, in light of the fact that this potential merger is being sold as the salvation of this township to, in other words, it's dissolution will be its preservation. That's a hard sell. So, I understand that, there's a lot of, that the intention seems here to be, well, we want to cut a deal with the mid-sized wolf so that we can stave off the big bad wolf. But we just confirmed that there have been no petitions from the big bad wolf. So, another question that I have is, considering the townships surrounding Harlem Township, both in Delaware and Franklin counties, each of which has retained its independence, what factor renders Harlem Township uniquely incapable of managing its own affairs?
Let me take a shot at that, and then Carl can jump in here. One of the biggest challenges, and 3 years ago, we weren't having these conversations. 3 years ago, there weren't data centers being built, there wasn't this thing called Intel going on. So if you think about our physical location to where this development is taking place, be it Intel, and Intel is just a poster child for this issue. There are lots of other pressures on us from outside, from other companies. There isn't a township within the physical range of that building site that has more raw available land for potential developer building. So if you think about it, there's a full-size bullseye for developers on Harlem Township because of how much land they can acquire and aggregate to do development. And so that is where the pressure is going to come, and it's going to come rapidly, we think, like what people saw in Arizona. And so it's not going to be business as usual around here because there's a huge underlying justification for people to push for annexation to be able to take advantage of this.
I want to add to the annexation, comment. If you think about and you look at communities that are surrounding this area, and if you wait until you have an annexation petition that is in front of you, you are too late. This township is making the decision to plan ahead. If you look at a Jersey township, they lost half of their township to annexation. So you have to look ahead. They're learning from what others have done to move forward in a direction to prevent that from happening to this township. You have Galena, you have Sunbury, that there are annexations that are happening all the time up there. They are getting closer and closer to this boundary. You have Columbus to the south that is only a few parcels away from getting here. If you wait for them to get here and you say, oh, now there's an annexation petition, you're too late.
Thank you. I knew I should have probably went this long. Robin, I'd like to answer your first question. You're right. There are no immediate threats. There weren't any in Jersey Township either. I mean, we could set back, and if this is what, the beauty in my mind of this saying is, in November, you're going to have an option, yes or no. And whatever you guys decide in November, we're going to live with it. I mean, but the thing is, if I don't do my job, if you all put me and voted, well, some of you voted for me, that you passed me, and that you passed the other trustees. If we don't plan for the future and try to make sure that we put programs in place to protect us, protect you, protect the township, we're not doing our job. To me, it's that simple. If I'm wrong,
I just want to address the one point that was made about
how can the preservation of the township be its dissolution? My response to that is, in my mind, a township is not just a form of government, it's a community. And we can, if we view the township as a community and not just as a form of local government, you can see how taking the township and merging it into a municipality, but having it be the whole township, keeps it as one community. We might not be able to technically call it a township by its legal definition, but it keeps the entire area whole, and that's one thing that I think is really promising about this option.
After the next question is the mic, we're going to take one off of the cards passed around. So come on up and please ask the question. Could you get a little closer?
Gail Hall, I live at 4A. I've been there for probably a little over 50 years. Have lived here for a little over 50 years. I'm going to say two things. Number one, your committee was always concerned about high density in our area. If we go with a merger with Westerville, what is going to happen to that high density concern that we all had in the beginning with your committee when they were researching everything? And I'll just go ahead and make this statement. We have a bigger land mass, if I'm not incorrect. I listened to the meeting this morning. Therefore, we're bigger than Westerville. But what kind of representation are we going to have? Are we going to have one voice on their board or council? I think we deserve three. We deserve to have the elected officials that we all voted for be accountable for our township, be accountable for our township with Westerville. As this government gets bigger and more controls are put on, who's going to be speaking for all of us? And I think that is extremely important. And we have put our trust in our trustees. They have done a heck of a job for us. They have been frugal. They've taken a true heart concern for this community. And we're blessed to be in this community, and we're blessed to have good government here. And although they may not have the, I guess, abilities of some of the bigger governments, they are still our representation. And I think that is very important for our community. And I would like for that to be considered with what all you're going to be doing, because it sounds to me like, and as much as I hate it, this is going to happen. And we're going to have to be prepared for it. But we better have some strong voices to maintain what we want.
So
Thank you.
I want to answer the zoning question that she had. One of the things that is near and dear to everyone on the strategic planning committee and myself, near and dear to our hearts, is the zoning. We worked really, really hard to get those overlay districts in place and held 10 community meetings with all of you to educate you on those. We don't want those to be thrown out the door. When Westerville first even entertained the idea of a merger with us, I said, there's no way, because I don't want that zoning to go away. And then the conversation evolved of, we can work with you on your zoning and we can incorporate it into our zoning code for a certain period of time as the land develops. So we will.
5 minutes? No. If I may.
We have heard it a lot over the last week. But of this whole thing, you have to remember this merger, if it goes through, is a negotiated deal. We will negotiate the time frame. If it's 5, I'm just throwing numbers out so please don't figure out. If it's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. Some mergers have gone a lot longer, some have gone less. Our intention is that we're going to set a time that we feel, and it's not going to be 5 minutes, trust me. We work, this community worked too hard to get the zoning in place. When this group first, as the representative of the trustees to this group, one of the first things I told them when they decided that they were gonna serve, when it was decided to start going out and talking to different places, I said, there are deal breakers. If they can't answer these simple couple questions, our zoning stays in town. That's one. If they say no to that, walk. If they say they will not sign a non-annexation agreement, walk. And it's kind of, everybody in this room will understand, but I've had some reporters look at me like I was freaking crazy. When I looked at them and said, if I can't go in my backyard and shoot my gun, or if I can't go hunt on my property, walk. If I can't take my quad and drive over to my neighbor's house, walk. The Harlem Township is with, our whole goal here has been from day one. When we started this strategic, if anybody was in this room, I stood up here and I told you, back then, our biggest goal is to keep Harlem Township as much Harlem Township as possible. Are we going to have changes? We're going to have changes. I wish we weren't. I wish somebody throw me a magic wand on how to stop that. And I'll use it. We need to have a plan. I look at Jersey Township. I look at these other townships. They had no clue. They got their feet and legs cut out from underneath them. This community was smart enough to try to get ahead of the game. Our powers are limited as a township. That's a fact. I would love to be able to say, everybody leave this alone. Our powers are limited, and down at the legislature, down at the state house. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get. The representation, Gail asked a question about representation. Our intent is to have representation. That's going to be part of the negotiated deal. They have a charter that they have to live by. We may not be able to affect the charter. We're going to have representatives from Harlem Township that are going to be sitting on the board, taking care of zoning before it even leaves Harlem Township to go to their council.
Yeah, so we have several questions that are around the same kind of theme, and it's why not Galena? Why not Sunbury? How did you choose Westerville? I go back again to say that a lot of it comes down to all of these things that we said that we wanted. We wanted them to check the boxes, the vision, where we wanted them to be able to provide the amenities that a community would desire. So all of those other communities do not have the level of service that a Westerville can provide at this point in time. They are smaller. They don't have the ability to really create the community that we and the vision that is outlined in the quick strategy guide. So all of those boxes have to be checked, and those other communities just didn't check those boxes. We talked about Galena. We talked about how we asked them to sign a non-annexation agreement. We did not hear back from them. So if they're not going to agree to not annex certain areas, we have to walk away.
Did you ask Sunbury? Or are you just making an assumption?
Sunbury just annexed 1,000 acres of Trenton Township.
Did we ask Sunbury?
Or,
Was Sunbury asked?
no, as soon as we saw what they were doing, we're already annexed. And Sunbury doesn't have the capability of utilities.
Yeah. And also similar to this, we had a question of why not Harlem City? Why couldn't we incorporate ourselves as just a city? We actually looked into that. And there was, the way the law is set up, it was impossible for us to meet those parameters to do that. We talked to an attorney about that.
Go ahead, please.
Adam McKee, 11869 Center Village. Question regarding, I heard part of the Zoom meeting this morning. It sounds like this is going to a vote.
Can you get a?
This is going to a vote either way. At what point will this document be available to see before the election? Is there a time frame for this merger agreement for public review? And then in the election, is this one issue that Westerville and Harlem are voting on, or is each group voting on a different issue? Like, will they be voting on to accept Harlem, and will we be voting to join Westerville? If it's one issue, they've got the votes.
The vote will be, well, if I can talk for a minute, I'll just run down the time, okay, briefly. The process will formally start on March 20th, when the Harlem trustees will formally put forward a resolution to pursue an agreement with West. So that's the first legal, whatever you want to call it, formal step in Harlem Township. Similarly, and it's pretty simple here, we can do that with one meeting or one engagement. Westerville rules are different, and so their process starts next Tuesday night. And their charter requires 3 readings by city council to talk, I'm sorry, yeah, tell everybody else to. Requires 3 readings by their city council to review this topic. And so the first one is next week. I don't have that sheet in front of me, but you will see on there a second and a third reading by their council, at which point they get to the same point we'll be on the 20th, which is assuming they agree to pursue a merger agreement with Harlem. Okay, so now both Harlem and Westerville at that point have said, okay, let's go. And the let's go is a 120-day clock that starts at that point in time to hammer out the agreement. That doesn't mean prior to that, we can't be doing a lot of work in the background with them, but so I think that technically starts about the 1st of April. And so we will have April and finishing just about the end of May, about Memorial Day. So 8 weeks to sit down and hammer out an agreement between ourselves. Okay? And during that period, we expect there will be multiple engagements. And I think even before that, Westerville may not want to do that because of their charter, but there's no reason in the world that we can't be spending more time with residents and hearing reactions to some of the things that we already think are core to what we want to have in an agreement. So we can go through that prior to that process. So then about the 20th, the agreement gets signed off by both parties because the trustees have approved it and now the council has approved it. That then sets us up or sets the group up to start moving this forward to the elected organizations in Franklin County and in Delaware to get this on the vote in November. So what will be voted on in November is yes or no, do you support this merger agreement? And it's a common merger agreement at that point, approved by both localities.
Both localities are voting on the same, they've got more people, more votes.
No.
That's
No, it takes a majority win in each locality. So Harlem's got to pass it by 51, and Westerville's got to pass it by 51.
My name's Steve
Okay,
Campbell.
thanks,
I live 2529 South Street, Route 605. My question is, you said zoning's gonna stay in place. What happens to the BCA, zoning commission, zoning director? Does that still get merged with them? We lose that?
That is all to be negotiated as part of this agreement, so that all has to be done. We do not know what that looks like yet. We have to continue to, work through that with Westerville.
That seems to be important that the zoning stays. Just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that what we have told them is our expectation is that there will be a zoning board for Harlem Township. okay, that may serve as a dual role of what the zoning commission and the BZA do today, but we haven't gotten any further than that in our conversations because we couldn't. But that's the general question, that will be held and maintained in Harlem Township.
My question, Angie Bayo, 16181 Lewis Road. I just have a question based on recent zoning changes that y'all have already made, so it's just a follow-up to your question essentially. Is will we see a lot more deed restrictions? Because recently in October, you guys passed some things that say that you cannot have agriculture on lots of less than 1 acre, that dairying and animal husbandry and poultry can be prohibited on lots between 1 and 5 acres, which is what I currently have, where to reach 35% population density. So the reason that my husband and I bought out in the country is because we wanted to not have deed restrictions. We wanted to be able to do what we wanted to do on our property. So the question is, if we merge and we're already seeing these restrictions come into place, how are we going to be able to anticipate what other restrictions will follow?
That's a great question. Someone like to take, I don't know the answer.
So we have brought up the fact of agricultural being exempt in the township. And that we need to be able to continue that agricultural use as part of this merger agreement. So that is another thing that is on our list to continue to operate in the agricultural arena as the township operates today.
Doug Reedy, 13034
Real quick, one thing everybody has to understand, and I'll be fast. One thing everybody has to understand, we can walk away from this deal at any time. As soon as they don't agree to something that this town says has to be, we can walk away. Yes, we can. Until it's voted on.
Now we end the line.
No, they can, look,
You sign this, and it's happening.
if we sign what's it?
You vote for this, and it's passed.
If we,
They
if,
will do whatever they do. That's right. You'll be done.
thank you.
So I have one, there's words if you wanna switch
Yeah.
quickly to this.
Well, this one, sorry, one last question, please.
Appreciate your work on this. I wonder if you could add to the negotiating points, property tax reform. It's probably an impossible thing, but it's a plague. It's one of the things that's already out of control. The school budgets have to start suffering the way everybody else, where there's been no chance for people to own their own homes. So why not put it on the table and see what you can do with the property tax reform and at least start the discussion about this? Right.
Okay, we're gonna, sit tight, we're gonna, take one off the cover here.
Yeah, so there's actually a number of.
You gonna negotiate taxes or not?
We don't have the power to do that, but we can certainly investigate what the possibilities are. I can't answer that question.
Talking about negotiations all night. Stop being so desperate.
Right.
Don't work.
We're not gonna see.
So we're gonna go on to, the note cards. So there are a number of, similar questions regarding utilities, and road maintenance and how, who will your utility provider be if there's a merger? How will utilities get from Westerville over to Harlem Township? So day one, you're still gonna have your electric service that you have today. How it gets over, electric and sewer and water, sorry, electric and water get over here, that all has to be determined. But day one, your provider is not going to change. And then snow removal and road maintenance, of course, that would become a service of the city if a merger were to happen. But it's my understanding that your township guys would continue to, be part of the,
Township employees will remain.
Yeah.
Intact. Okay, you're up.
Michelle Bowden, 11872 Woodtown Road. I just have a couple questions. So if we're going to eventually merge with Westerville, one of the questions I have is in regards to the county stuff. Are we gonna still be under Delaware County rules and regulations? Will be under Franklin County rules and regulations, and what will that look like?
Delaware, we'll still be Delaware County.
Perfect. And then I know I'm supposed to get the back of the line, but I'm gonna ask a quick follow-up question. But in regards to, I know on here it says different things about like the police and fire and stuff kind of still being negotiated. Are we, and have we looked at other places that have merged? And what happened to the crime rate and what happened to the things like that? Because, I mean, I'm pretty confident our community could just like handle it themselves, but I don't know that's gonna be best.
First of all, let's start with fire. Our fire department will stay in.
And what will that look like for budget? So like if our fire is staying intact, and we're
Actually,
splitting
budget
it,
wise, if we become part of all this, the budget could put that up for the fire department.
but could it get worse as
No.
well?
It's not gonna get worse.
You're like, it's so bad, it's not gonna be.
It's not, no, I think it's not going to get worse. How do you answer it? That's part I mean. Police, we've already discussed, they will be providing some form of protection for the police.
So what does that look like? Do we have something near
We
or
have
what
something
was that
24/7 basically from Western.
from Westerville? Okay, so have we like looked into what the like response might be?
That all has to be done.
That's all still in the working.
They'll need a substation, they'll need all kinds of different stuff.
You know, there was we had another part of your question, the crime rate. That is one of the concerns I have with all the potential. I'm sorry, Rob, I'm gonna say something, I know where you're at. If an annexation happens in Columbus, that's my biggest concern.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much.
We have an easy one here. What school district will be involved? Your school district will still be the same. The school district is a total different entity. So if the merger were to be approved, Vic Walnut would continue to be the school district.
No change,
No change.
no change.
But they can ask for it, right?
Pardon?
They can ask for it right now.
No, they're independent bodies. Go ahead.
Robin Lovenstein, 1 people hundred. To echo Gail Paul's earlier statements. This merger proposes to assimilate a township of 5,000 residents into a municipality of 40,000 residents. And yet you still claim we're going to have a voice going forward. Today we vote, 5,000 residents vote for those who represent us and for the things that take place within our township. Once we are assimilated into Westerville, where is our voice?
You don't, you're right. She's correct. Westerville has a at-large council of 7 council members, right? And then they have a town management structure. And I think those seats are 3 or 4 years, and they're just like our trustees, they're off cycle so that they don't all come due at the same time. So I think they just elected 3 new ones here this last year. So at that point in time, if we are part of them, we have the opportunity, or anyone has the opportunity to stand for election in Westerville. And at that point, they have to make the same case as anyone else does in Westerville as to why they can do the best job to serve the population. But they're gonna, next time around, if we are part of Westerville, have to talk about how they serve 26 square acres of Harlem that is not square miles. Yeah, I think they can be a little small. So, yeah, I was thinking. So the 26 square miles, that'll be part of the discussion. But at this point, That is probably where we're headed at the council level within Westerville with this stuff. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Gillespie, 15718 Eagles Road. Ask a question for my mom, who's not here tonight, Linda O'Flynn, 15581 Eagles Road. As a family that's lived in the township since 1810, who is going to maintain cemeteries? And will they be maintained at the same quality that they have been? Or will they be left to just kind of fall in?
We can't answer that because
That should have been your first question to them. It's one of those things, you've got to make sure you've got the infrastructure. Who's gonna maintain what?
it's on the list of things that we expect to be managed as part of the overall physical services in the township. So it has not been put, it's not been discussed specifically of elements of the agreement because we haven't had any of those discussions yet about specific elements.
So like.
It's on the list.
So like the mowing of the ditches, the other maintenance issues with the roads, if you're not on one of the county roads and you're on a township road, we don't have any idea who's going to maintain those if this happens.
Roadways will be done by the city, but we'll have our own the township staff will still be on the city staff.
So
For roadways.
we will still have our own township staff, which will be city staff.
That is the.
The city path that they take care of today. And I will commit to you that we will get cemetery care moved right to the top of it. Not good. I hear you.
They're not maintaining doing the ditch mowing and the things that in town they don't think about needing to have done. But a lot of the ditches, if they're not getting mowed on a regular basis, you can't see to turn out onto another road, especially when we're gonna have increased traffic. So those basic maintenance things start to become a real concern.
This has been part of what I know I've said all along, and I think the trustees, the other two trustees agree with this, is that we will maintain our maintenance department. Our maintenance department will continue to do what it's doing. We'll have our fire department. Our fire department will continue doing the excellent job that it does. And any administrative office people will sit. And then we will have a zoning committee that is made up of Harlem Township residents. And it'll come to them first, and then someone from there will take that to the city. So it all has to go through us. That's what we're shooting for in these meetings.
Taxes. So these are all about property taxes and income taxes. So. And corporate.
I don't know the torture tax. Okay, see, right, maybe there's some, I can do it, or you can do it. Explain what the expectation is around property and income taxes as a starting point. This in the FAQ. Go ahead. If I understood the question right, it's someone who has a business within the township right now, corporate taxes. They do not pay them, but if it becomes a city, will they pay their city taxes? Yeah. I'm gonna have to look you straight in the face right now and say, I don't know, because it's, there again, these are all things, we are at the beginning starting. We can try to put that in the package. One of the things I know that I've said basically grandfathering in the ordinances that Harlem Township currently has.
But we will owe income taxes, but you are gonna pay income tax.
I didn't say anything about income tax. We're not. There will be income tax, yes. But
business in Westerville, you have to pay Westerville tax. When they incorporate this area, you will pay Westerville tax. There's no way around that.
So for income tax, there is a credit. So if you are a city resident and you pay your income tax to where you work, Westerville credits that against their income tax.
Correct.
So
You're in town.
there's,
Fire department, you pay their police department. You haven't explained that. No. I think it's all, how many taxes are you paying? Yeah, I don't think you know it. It's all there. It's a one thing.
Sir, I'm gonna ask you a big thing, and I appreciate.
You want me to leave?
No, I'm not gonna ask you to leave. I would never do that. I would ask you if you would get in line like everybody else and pose your question. Like, I have got up there and been very respectful of you, even though you've been very disrespectful of us and everybody. in this. If you have a question, you would please say it. Okay,
My name's Chad Morrison. I'm a former resident of Harlem Township. Our family owns, I believe, the largest farm in Harlem Township. Just a few statements. I'm confused on the vision of Harlem Township because it's gonna go away, whether Westerville does it for us or we do it on our own. I'd like to have control of it, not let Westerville control it. I'd like the people who've been in this community for a very long time to reap the benefits of it going away, not Westerville to reap the benefits of it. So I'm confused on where, I built a house on a 300-acre farm, and on a mile stretch of road, the township allowed a driveway to go right at my front door. And then now we have an APA transmission line going through our backyard. So I'm confused who will protect. I'm not saying nobody's not worth the same amount in this community, but I think it should still be the community's choice what happens to it, not Westerville's choice. And I grew up here almost 50 years to see New Albany, Westerville, all these places, we're all farm country. And I don't see a farm in Westerville. I don't see a farm in New Albany. I'm just here to tell people, it's not gonna matter, it's just who has the faith.
The only thing I can say is if you wanna have control. You wanna have control. Can you tell me how a township has control? I'm asking.
I have control through my trustees right now. I'm sorry, I give you the best bet in negotiating, but Westerville is gonna mow you over, just like I feel if we were doing this with New Albany, they get what they want. If they're doing this from us, they get what they want. If they're doing this with somebody, they get what they want. They're gonna get what they want. And it's gonna be in the same time frame as if we are slowly annexed. I mean,
If it comes down to that, and if we can't get a deal that works for the township, I'm not gonna get any of this, so I can say it.
yeah,
We can walk away. And in November,
this is going so fast, I don't think you're gonna catch what's coming. That's all.
but in November, you're all gonna have the final vote.
And that's all it's doing.
You're always gonna have a final vote.
I can annex either way, but Westerville can't annex the city.
Step on up.
Hi, it's Matt Hollis, 5549 Miller Pulp Road. First of all, I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm not in your seat tonight, so I really appreciate all that. But my question, and I'm serious, that wasn't meant to be snarky. Like, I really am serious. You guys are doing a really good job, so we appreciate that. My question is that there's been a lot of talk about negotiations, which is a good thing, and I'm glad that we're in the control seat for those negotiations. I enforce contracts for a living, and so one of the questions I have is, once we sign, what infrastructure, what revenue, what say do we have to enforce it if they do breach it or violate it? Because the contract is really only as good as the two parties and the one that can enforce it.
We have legal counsel that has been engaged So they will continue to monitor and advise us on those issues, so.
But if they funded post-merger? Like, I mean, the legal counsel that we've retained, once we're no longer a township and we've merged,
Right.
I'm assuming someone has to pay that bill. So if the township has no resources, how do we enforce it if they breach?
Yeah, so, what I'm saying is that I will ask that question to our attorney, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the attorney is going to be there after the merger. I'm just saying, we will ask that question of our attorney.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to follow through?
That's why she's the PR. Go ahead, fire away.
Hi, I'm Jason Wheeler, 13145 B1 Road. Just real quick statement, I'm just from hearing everybody, I'm not sure that everyone here has the same priority put towards the amenities and things like that that you all have. I hear a lot of, like, we don't really need those amenities, you know, when you were talking about selecting Westerville. That's one of the criteria. But my question is around the speed at which the annexation risk is. What percentage of landowners or percentage of acreage, I'm not sure which, is required for an annexation to occur? Where they take a big group, where it's not a single landowner that's saying, you know, to come take it.
The law says it has to have 5% contiguous border.
But I mean, so what does that mean? Like any land on one lot, as long as it has 5%, then the land around it.
It's actually very small.
Regardless.
5% is very small when you look at it, so you can actually get a little piece and then bump it out, because 5% is pretty small when you start that to.
Right, so it's not a matter of how many, like, people or on board with it.
No,
or anything like that.
5% contiguous.
Thank you.
And that's how some of the townships, even in our area, have been broken in half. Where someone finds a small property that they can buy up on one of the boundary areas, and then it just becomes a game of dominoes. They find a way to buy a single property or a couple of properties and combine them, and then they have the opportunity to jump across the stream and buy up another property, and then they're off to the races. And they can just keep working their way up or sideways or whatever you like into township as they've acquired pieces of property that are contiguous, and they can all be in. And so that's the risk. I mean, it can look innocuous, but it can grow very quick. And these guys have plans for this sort of thing. Next question.
Good evening, Dave Robish, 15420 Robbins Road. Talked a lot about negotiations tonight. One of the items that you said not on the table are the taxes. The numbers, you know, while all of this merger may work holistically, the numbers don't, because we're pretty much, we have, you know, 50-50 slate here. You know, it's a Westerville, it's a Harlem Township. If you don't mind, maybe communicate out to us in a follow-up email or some form of communication. Maybe let the people know in the township what you are going to negotiate and what isn't going to be negotiated. Since I came in thinking we have a bargaining chip, right? Westerville would like us just as much as maybe we would like Westerville, right? But we're not going to negotiate property. Just if we could follow up, let us know what is going to be negotiated and what is. Thank you.
I also want to point out here that as you are looking at your property taxes, when we started looking at the property taxes, it was a question that I had and a concern of the increased property tax. When I started talking with the fire chief, he started to say, hey, do you remember the conversation that I had with the trustee at least a year ago, telling them that I was going to need a levy in the next couple of years because I'm going to run out of money. And with all of the increase in runs of 20% every year that the runs have been increasing because of the growth in the township. And I'm gonna need probably a 3 mil levy at some point in time in the next few years to keep us sustained. Well, that equates to what the increase in property taxes if we going with Westerville. So you would be paying almost the same amount of taxes unincorporated if that levy were to go through for the township fire department. So keep that in the back of your mind too, as you're thinking about property taxes.
This morning, I mentioned to a lot of folks that, you know, we all see costs going up. The cost is going up continuously. Harlem Township and Ray, since Chief Van Haren, I'm going to look at you and correct me if I'm wrong. It's been since 2006 was the last levy increase.
I think that was the 4 mil levy at that time.
So since 2006, you know, we're in 2024, everybody knows what's happening with costs. The costs are going up, so even if we could just stay status quo, those days, that's gonna happen. If we have any increase at all of people coming in, or any areas would change and with growth, these guys are afraid of working their butts off, and we're gonna have to add more firemen. We add more firemen, it's more money. We're gonna have to add more equipment. That's more tax dollars. So the taxes are going to change, and I'm sorry, I wish I could say that isn't true, but it's fine.
Tina Humphreys, 4457 Green Hook Road. Can you remind us what the total projected population will be in 12 years? And if you could break out between if we allow annexation versus if we merge, and also go through the numbers of what Columbus currently allows density-wise and Sunbury allows versus what we're hoping to achieve with the merger. Thank you.
I'm not even going to try to give you actual math numbers, but I will say this. Harlem Township adopted certain zoning. We have certain zoning in place, and our growth is going to be based on the percentage that we allow land to be used. Columbus, if Columbus annexed any of the property, you can drive down to Columbus and they stack houses on top of one another. So to even be able to give you a guesstimation of what a projection would be in 12 years, I'm not even going to insult you because I have no clue. If I had that crystal ball, I would be doing that.
Matt Moore, 4633 Harlem Road. You're talking about the amenities, and you're talking about you want Westerville amenities. I don't know about a lot of the folks in here, but if we wanted Westerville amenities, we would live in Westerville. If we live close to Delaney and Westerville, I think that's probably enough for most of us. Plus, if we were to merge with Westerville, we don't live in the city of Westerville, we live in the outskirts, so we have RETA tax. A RETA tax?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be Westerville tax, whatever, a lot of places call it RETA tax, but we wouldn't live in the city of Westerville, so we still have it.
City of Westerville if it merged. Yeah,
So we would be considered the city of Westerville.
you would, yes.
Hi, my name is Sue Bell. I live at 4702 Harlem Road. I'm not sure yet exactly how I feel about this, like you, I feel blindsided. But I do want to just kind of clarify something from personal knowledge. I lived in Westerville 45 years. I grew up there. We moved to Harlem Township about 12 years ago because we wanted less taxes. We wanted some space, and we found that, and we love it here. But I will say Westerville is not the devil. They are not an enemy. Westerville does care deeply about its residents. My father was a policeman, and then he was assistant fire chief when he retired. So I grew up in the city and knowing what those components are, and I can tell you they care deeply about their residents, and they take care of them as far as police coverage, responses, and the fire and EMS is second to none. And I truly believe that if this merger ends up happening, you're gonna have more and better response, especially with EMS. There would be probably, there are like 3 or 4 fire stations in Westerville proper right now. Being out here, our fire department would be expanded. There would probably be a police annexation, another department out here, so that it could increase that response time. So I just don't want you to look at Westerville as an enemy trying to take us over. I understand the zoning stuff. I agree with those concerns. I just don't want to get it into a fight of, Westerville's a bad guy who's trying to take us over. I would give me Westerville 10,000 times over Columbus people. Well, if we were annexed by Columbus, we were talking about crime and so forth. I would probably bet money that we would have some low-income, high-density apartment buildings and things like of that nature, which, everybody needs a place to live, but crime comes with that type of housing. I just think we need to learn what we can, negotiate the best. If this is the route we need to go, and I totally agree and understand what you're saying. And I'm telling you, when I first heard this, I was like, what? They just want taxes and blah, blah, blah. And then I found out tonight that it was us that started this. I'm like, oh, that had a different spin. Westfield's not trying to take us over. This is, we need to look at the lesson of all the evils. Sometimes the known is better than the unknown. So just try to be patient, try to communicate civilly and respectfully, and gain as much knowledge. And, us try to work together. But please don't believe that Westerville's an evil monster, because they're not. It's really a great city. I just wanted to say that they care about their residents.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Louis Greenwell. I live at 11665 Centerville Road. Since it's been established that the original, the initial discussions with Westerville were done behind closed doors, how about the trust but verify side? Can you commit to us that the negotiations will be done in a public forum that we can see that you all are fighting for us? We know what you proposed, we see what's been agreed, we can watch it all take place. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how we will accomplish that. We have a lot of work to do with individual departments there. It may be more, we're going to, yes, the commitment is yes. It is now a public activity, and you have full right, and it's our responsibility to report back to you. And it may be more of the frequent reporting back on how we have progressed the agreement, rather than when we sit down with 2 people talking to 2 people trying to have a discussion. I think we want to know what was asked for, not just what we got in return, but we want to know what was asked for and what you thought for.
The law requires a committee that will help negotiate, and there are residents that sit on that committee. So there will be a time and place for that to take place through the required law.
And as one of the trustees, I'll make this commitment, and I'm hoping my other 2 will agree with me. We're going to have open meetings where the committee is going to be reporting its findings, its decisions, its movements to the trustees in an open forum meeting, which is on Zoom, which is recorded. One suggestion, can the communications subcommittee start like a running document that we can all submit comments to, so that we can have those lists of things that you find important that we want you to promote?
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. I'll look into that and make sure we get something out there on the township website so that you guys can start putting thoughts and some thinking. I'm gonna switch to card real quickly because we haven't covered those in a minute. So where has this model worked elsewhere? There have been other mergers, a lot that have taken place in northeastern Ohio. So there have been mergers. It's not something that happens every day. But there are models that we can look at. More recently here, St. Albans has been talking to the village of Alexandria and considering a merger. So it is something that, other places have done and are looking at. And then there's another one that says, would I have to pay Westerville city income tax on retirement income, which I don't pay now? No, this income tax is on earned income, so. Certainly not. Earned.
That's the rule.
Yeah, it's on earned income, and you can talk to your accountant if you want to know what earned income includes.
Okay, please.
Yeah, Tom Tomasic, 10811 Keller Pines Sport. Just to help clarify on the local income tax, I lived in Westerville. Westerville's income tax is 2%. If you work, say, in Columbus or another municipality, they do reciprocity. Anyway, but you still have to file a local income tax annually with the city of Westerville, no matter what. So if you're self-employed or you work out of your house or you're a farmer and you don't pay any local income tax, you'll be paying 2% on your income that you make. So that needs clarification that people right now that don't pay any local income tax will be paying 2%. And you will have to file a form with the city of Westerville every year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Clark, and I had lived in Westerville since 1965. We just moved to 2983 Greenbrook Road less than 2 years ago. So I know Westerville like the back of my hand. We own a business in Westerville, a real estate company. And I just want to echo what some people have said. First of all, Westerville is an incredible community, and that like their parks, their dedication to green space and that kind of thing is superb. So I don't think they are the bad guy here. But speaking as a real estate professional, if you want to see what the annexation looks like, and it's a hop, skip, and a jump, you go drive down, just cross over Fancher, and go down Lee Road, go down Walnut. The Gardner family farm is the MI Development Hoover Farms. Our company represented the sellers in that. So they could sell for X number of dollars, not annexed, or a lot more if annexed. So that whole thing is annexed into the city of Columbus, water, sewer, all that kind of thing. So this is what it looks like. So at best, what it would look like for us is Hoover Farms. It's a beautiful MI development. At worst, just keep going and you drive up and down Central College. You take a look at the PUDs, okay, all of the developments there, those are high density. Go up and down Warner, everything that's going on over there. So it is real, the threat is real. Annexation can look okay, but it can also look not really great. And these are big farms. I've got another, that was just a 12-acre. They were willing to annex and didn't really realize the ramifications of that. And it squeezed, you know, the other side of a very nice rural residential street. So it is real. This isn't some like fluff and bluster. And just drive around, take a look. That's what it's going to look like. I'd rather protect ourselves, be proactive, than end up just being picked apart.
Thank you.
My name's Eugene Galmi, 6797 Harlem Road. I guess what I'm getting at here is obviously a lot of these people in this room, in this township, are on fixed incomes and retired, what have you. But I was involved in the Plain Township, New Albany deals when everything exploded doing water and sewer taps. Now, that being said, what happened there was, I mean, I made a lot of taps, and what happened is once the sewer and the water lines became available, they actually came in, condemned people's wells, and they forced them to buy sewer. Now, a lot of those old folks were on the opposite side of the street. The sewer mains were 20 and 30 foot deep. They're getting quotes besides the tap fees, 20, 30, and $40,000 required to continue to live there. Well, they couldn't do it, so they forced them out. Well, their properties are all gone, they're dozed. That was their plan. They forced them out just with the water and the sewer tap. So what I want to know is, if that happens, and we get this water, and we get the sewer, what have you, we already have Delco water. And are we going to be able to negotiate prices of tap when they come in and say, okay, your septic system is no longer acceptable, and you have to buy a water tap? Then what's going to happen? Do we know anything like that at all?
That's county, I can't answer that. I've always said that, and when we first started this, there's some folks that got tired of hearing me say it, but no, they, as you know, no, they can't technically force you to tie, but they can surely condemn your well, or they can surely condemn your second to it.
Well, if it becomes condemned, then what? What do you do?
That's county, right now,
It's not county, it's whoever providing the sewers.
Yeah,
That-
the sewer is coming from the
I'm
county.
telling you, it's gonna happen. A lot of these people are gonna get forced to buy water and sewer taps, and they're not gonna be able to afford it.
But, sir, what I think what I'm trying to get across is that has to do, the county right now, we're under that gun, so to speak, right now anyway. We have no, the township.
Well, I can tell you this, when I did, it wasn't county, it was the city of Columbus. So, I don't know what you mean by county.
I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
I think you really need to consider that, because it's gonna happen. And a lot of these folks won't be able to say just because they can't buy those taps. And then, on top of it, they have to pay the contractor to put them in.
Even if we say as we are, that is going to be the stance that they're going to be forced by the county.
The sewer is coming whether or not we merge
Yeah,
with Westerville or not. That is a sewer line under construction today, and it will be open in 2026.
That thing that they're building down there on Harlem Smothers, that's not sewage, is it?
It is,
I
yes.
thought that was for storm water.
No, sir.
That water.
No, sir. That is a tap coming from the city of Columbus. It was agreed on back in August 1991. One of these days I'll remember this date. That was agreed on by the county back in 1991.
I think a lot of people think that's just for storm drain,
No.
take the
If
pressure off the
anybody's
sewers.
if anybody's thinking that, it's not, that is true.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Matthew Croft, 3058 Green Cook Road, local income taxes. So, hey, first of all, thanks for all your work, even while you're taking more heat. We appreciate all the work you're doing. I really do. Thank you for standing up there and being willing to do this. I want to give you the opportunity to clarify something that is misleading on your FAQs. Thanks. So your FAQs, I think they're copied out of Westerville regarding income tax. They say that city income tax is based upon work location. So today, if I live in Harlem Township and work in Harlem Township, I don't pay any tax. If we merge, I pay tax. So is it based on where I work or where I live?
Where you work.
If you merge,
If you so happen to live and work in the same place, then it's based on where you work.
so it's based on where I work,
Yes.
but if you merge, it's gonna change based on where I live.
No, if you work in Columbus and we merge, Harlem merges with Westerville, you would still pay your tax to Columbus. You would not pay to Westerville.
Oh, so maybe I'm missing this, because if I live in Harlem Township and work in Harlem Township today, I don't pay a city tax.
That is correct.
And if we merge, I do.
Well, that's because you're saying you worked in Harlem Township. That's what the difference is. If you live and work in Harlem Township and it merges, yes, you would pay income tax. If you work in Columbus and live in Harlem Township and you merge with Westerville, you still pay Westerville, you pay Columbus, because that's where you work.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I do think that income tax, we'll end up with one of the highest local income tax rates in the area, effective 2.75% between Big Walnut and Westerville. That's, if you look around the state, one of the highest. We'll go from one of the lowest to one of the highest with this merger. So I'd ask that you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin,
Can you get a little closer to it?
yeah, Kevin Atkins, 12540 Robbins Road. And my question is, basically, New Albany Company owns about 300 acres on the corner of 605 and Robbins. And there's a lot of developers that own big fields in the bottom part of this township. Who's to stop them from merging us, or from, not merging, but annexing us into Franklin County on New Albany right now?
You can't in a county, but into New Albany, if it's contiguous to New Albany, then that property owner could choose to annex into New Albany.
So if the New Albany company owns it, so there's nobody to stop it.
It's got a border involved.
It has to be contiguous to the municipality in order to annex.
But if they own it, and we can start looking around for another property nearby that allows them to do check pieces to get over to a contiguous location, then the whole thing can be annexed. And that's the way they play the game.
And on the lower portion of the township, there's a lot of big parcels down there that are owned by developers already.
That's correct.
That's what our concern is.
Thank you.
That's what our concern is.
So I'm gonna switch to one of these real quickly. How do we guarantee a seat at the table? Well, we have a seat at the table to negotiate the agreement. And then it's saying, how do we ensure that we're represented once a merger goes through? I think we've talked about that. We have said for zoning, we will, we want a seat at the table, and if we're not agreeing to it.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Gary Ward. I'm at 11419 Center Village Road. And it's really just a follow-up to the gentleman's comments that was made earlier. I think from an earlier meeting, you had a slide that speaks to the large amount of land in our township that's already owned by developers and LLCs.
Yeah.
So I think this makes us very different from Genoa to Harlem
Yes.
Township. You won't find open land in Genoa.
Right.
This is why I think we need the protection. And I think your slide that you had that shows all the channels in the past that these developers are sitting on waiting. And I think you also showed us that there's sewer and water coming from three directions.
Yeah.
Licking County, Galena, and the city of Columbus, which we all see that smothered in Harlem Road. So anyway, I was just gonna ask if you had that slide because I think it was a very good point. Thank you.
Well, she's coming up. I'll take one more. Cost benefit analysis. We saw 3 slides of the benefits of a merger. Can we see any of the cost of the merger? So I guess it's something that maybe the community could.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the kind of cost benefits will come out when we start going through the negotiations, but as we have public forums with the community, as we kind of hear what you feel is a cost versus what you feel is a benefit, we can start putting that together a little bit more concretely. Obviously, not every single person is going to agree on every single thing. Some people have made comments, well, they don't really care about the amenities. That might be true for some people, but other people might really care about that. Westerville has a lot of really good senior services, and I know there's a lot of people that are, have lived in Harlem Township and are, seniors and would probably benefit from some senior services that we don't currently have. So it's going to be kind of like a give and take. Some people are going to be, find some of those amenities and some of those services appealing. Other people might not really see as much value in them, but maybe they find value in something else. So as we go through this process, I think we'll have a lot more of that come to light and, what we're really able to bring forward for our community and you know, we'll do the best we can to negotiate the best contract, the best deal, that benefits us the most, and put that forward to the trustees, and if they think that it's, you know, a reasonable and good enough proposition, then they will put it to the ballot. If they don't, then it won't go to the ballot. And then, when, you know, once it's ballot, it's a decision of the voters. So, but to the point of cost benefit, I think that's definitely something that we can kind of continue to build on as we discuss.
Hi, I'm Kara Jackson from 12345 Woodtown Road. I just wanted to ask, well, actually recommend in your contract, if you can put like a time frame of, assuming this goes through, 2025, we pay the taxes for it, when we will see our benefits, like our parks or whatever, and, you know, we wait 7 years for it to show up. Some of it might, you know, some of us might not get to use that, as well as part of what worries me is that we're so distant from Westerville, that how much benefit are they gonna get if we get what we want? What's gonna benefit them, because they can put up these condos, yet they don't see them, they don't get the traction, the traffic from it, they don't get all of that. Half of Westville doesn't know where Harlem is. So I feel like they would vote yes to a lot of this stuff, and we would vote no to, because it doesn't affect them, but they get money. That's my concern, but I love Westville.
I think there's a question.
Sorry, no, I was just, yeah.
I have 3 or 4 questions, if you don't mind, because they all pertain to one particular thing. Roger Nyberger, 425 Green Cook Road. One big issue I keep hearing tonight is we're going to have a seat at the table for zoning. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not the trustees at the present time appoint a zoning person every year.
Well, could you ask that again?
Does the trustees not appoint a zoning member every year? Are they on 5-year basis rotating?
Yes, yes,
So you do appoint one every year?
yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the math, yes. Roger, you're asking me math questions, you know.
I know, and that's troublesome to me. I'm sorry.
No. That's why there's 2 other trustees.
It's my understanding that the trustees are going to go bye-bye. You're fired.
Yeah,
You're fired, right?
if this goes through, I lose my job.
Okay. So Westerville City Council is going to be responsible for appointing the
No,
zoning people.
that's part of, that is part of what we have said. That is one of the negotiated items that we have said is a deal breaker.
Yeah, and it would be a board that has residents from the Harlem Township area on it. So if they don't allow that, then the trustees have said we're not going with it.
What does state law say about that?
Which is what?
State law says that.
So there is the charter for the city is what rules, and their legal counsel has indicated that they believe that we can have our own zoning board for the township.
They believe.
And we will clarify.
Clarify it with our legal counsel.
So,
Roger,
My fear-
Roger, I hate to use comparisons. If you look at, because comparisons sometimes get in trouble. But if you look at, we're talking like German Village to Columbus, Victoria Village to Columbus, they each have their own boards that make the decisions for that area, and then they go to city council. That is what we are, is that we have a board of Harlem Township made up of Harlem Township, 25 square miles of residents that make up that board.
I experienced exactly what you're talking about.
I'm sorry.
I experienced exactly what you're talking about in my business, my work. I sit as an owner's rep. I represent my company at these various meetings you're talking about.
Mhm.
And then it goes to city council. City council got the right to say yea or nay. My fear here is that the city council would say nay to who they would appoint to this board that representing our community. It looks to me like after 3 years, we would have majority of Westerville people on Harlem Township zoning. We would lose all control.
Not if it's, not if,
It'll be
not if,
part of the merger contract.
it'll be part of the merger contract.
How would it be stated? You have any thoughts how that would be stated in the contract?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
You know, how would it be stated? What's wording?
Well,
What's wording?
we don't know what the wording is right now. We are talking about what the ideas are. We will work with our attorneys and their attorneys to get the legal language to get the ideas in a legal form.
As a committee, how do you propose suggesting something like that? Have you talked about that?
We have said that we want a board that is represented by residents from the township as it exists today. And that there would be a certain number of people, probably 5 is what I have in my head. I don't know what everybody else has in their head, but 5 people from the township that would represent that board would represent the township.
Trustees are going to abide by.
The trustees do, yes.
Who's gonna pick them 5 people? How are we selected?
So it would have to come from council, but they'd have to pick from the township area. It would have to be people that live in the township. They can't pick from across the line.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Just as we keep going along, I said we're gonna try to shoot for 8:30. We're still gonna try to shoot for that. I know Carl's got a couple closing comments. So we can take a couple more questions and then I will be happy and maybe there are people up here just to hang around afterwards if you'd like to come up and we can talk a little bit further. Okay, fire away.
Michael Taylor, 14639 Woodtown Road. The pamphlet and what we talked about tonight talks about a lot of positive things with the change. But have we brought in anybody from other areas that you mentioned that had these mergers as outside consultants to say what of all the positives, what didn't work? What went sideways? Where did we get hit in the mouth for the decision that was made? Just so we understand not just what you're telling us is gonna work out great, but what didn't.
Remember, we're very early in this, so no, we haven't had time to do that. But I think that's a great idea to talk to others about what did and did not work.
Thank you.
One thing I found out in some research, like sort of past mergers, a lot of the mergers that have happened in the past have been small areas that were surrounded through the annexation by the municipalities, and those people were basically left as an island, and they merged in because they were, so it's gonna, that was a lot of the past mergers that I, now there are some of them.
This is kind of a follow-up to that zoning question. You said we would have a committee to approve our zoning in what was Harlem Township, if this goes through. But does Westerville still have, that's not the final say, right? It still has to go through Westerville.
You're getting into the weeds there because it depends upon if it's an administrative act versus a legislative act. So there are certain things that would still have to go back over to city council.
Okay, and then call me crazy, but if we do this, I gotta believe a lot of people in Westerville will find their way into what was Harlem Township. So appointing somebody from Westerville is not out of question on the Harlem Township board, correct?
Yeah, and maybe, you know, as I sit here and think about this more, maybe there's language in there that states these township residents are appointed at the time of the merger and they are on the board for X number of years. We don't have to follow the Ohio Revised Code as far as townships and rotating one every year. That goes away upon a merger. So the merger agreement can determine what those terms are. So maybe we make the term longer so that council isn't appointing anybody.
There's a lot of loopholes.
Yeah. You have to please understand that, again, there are things that we don't have the answers to yet tonight. We are working through these, so having this feedback, I think, is a good thing, because we can go and research some of this stuff too. So thank you.
Hi, Virginia Lewis, 6962 Harlem Road. I am on the zoning commission.
since we're having lots of zoning commission questions. First of all, I know you just talked about the difference between administrative and legislative. Do we know how all those overlays work that we just approved? Do those still go through just as a full?
We still have to work through those details. I mean, right now in your code, they're administrative. We haven't talked about what that will be, in their code. Of course, we will want to make sure whatever, the township has the most control in is part of that merger agreement.
Okay, furthermore, the zoning commission, all of those of us who are on it, we volunteer time. We are currently down 2 alternates. So I don't know if we need a popcorn machine to get this figured out, but our meetings are open to the public. We need 2 alternates. If you all want to have a say, it's a great spot to have.
And since we're on zoning, I'm gonna have this question, just because it's the same, along the same lines. 5-acre lot to build, will that stay if we're in the city of Westerville? And how many people in the strategic planning team live in Harlem Township? So the 5-acre lot, if you, whatever zoning is in place today for the township, we have said that needs to continue. And I'm gonna keep repeating that tonight. That needs to be built into the merger agreement. That is something that the trustees have said will walk if it's not. So the answer is that will continue. How many people in the strategic planning committee live in Harlem Township? All of them.
I'm gonna just say that after the gentleman in the orange jacket, we're gonna cut this off. So, with no opinion, that's rude. No line cuts. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jerry Whitaker, 5360 Harlem Road. I'm not familiar with Westerville City Charter. I did hear something this evening about the members of the city council being elected at large. I would suggest that you may want to explore as part of your negotiations the expansion of that, the number of people on the city council by perhaps 2, and that as part of their acceptance of a merger, that 2 people from Harlem Township be added to that council. I don't know how that would happen, but if they were to accept that, their charter would automatically amend to say an additional 2 people would be appointed in some fashion from Harlem Township.
We will have to look at the legalities of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathleen Johnson, 11668 Centerville Road. It looked to be one of the main talking points that you had was, for the merger was a electric and water supply for our township. What kind of studies have been done as far as Westerville's capability? From what I've seen of their electrical system, it's pretty, weak, compared with, you have in the county, you have Delco. How would that work? And what kind of studies have they done as far as capacity goes?
We've looked at, the water, we looked at what Westerville, actually Westerville's got a lot more water than those people. I was shocked when I did that. As far as the electric goes, I mean, we currently have a very weak system on this side of the reservoir anyways. Areas are good, but a lot of the area is very weak. We're gonna say AEP, if you go down North Hall, you'll see it's in the process of currently expanding anyways. So the utilities other than the water basically being, because some things that with Delco being short because of the intel and everything else, Westerville is gonna be able to aid in that. That's the
So they
biggest
would
thing.
run water lines down the roads that already have Delco?
I'm sorry?
They would run city of Westerville water lines down roads that already have Delco?
No. The way this whole system is interlinked. I mean, it's like, they sell water to Delco.
So we would have to tap into Westerville, even though you're down.
See where it's at, it's just the supply, the amount of water that. It-
I mean,
it-
there's different companies treating the water. Delco treats its own water, Westerville treats its own water, so it would be the same water.
It's where it originates.
How is that solving any of our electrical problems or any of our water problems? I guess I don't understand how that's a selling point here.
Yeah, we need to keep it from utilities. I mean, the other thing I know is on the electrical side, I can't really answer that, but I know on the water side, they have an abundance of water that they can sell. And that's what I didn't realize until I got involved with this, how much that happens in those areas. We have the water, we'll sell it to you if you do this. That happens. We'll still be with Delco. Delco will just be possibly giving you that. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Angie Gary, 12963 Center Village Road. I can say that in my professional life, I've worked on many large mergers and acquisitions. And it is the mammoth of the two that consumes the little one, right? And we're the little guy. And so we're trying to understand what was the criteria you used to put us in the position with Westerville as opposed to the other ones. So if you could give us something that showed us that comparison and the criteria that we can take a look at, we would really appreciate that. Because for many of us, if we wanted these amenities you're talking about, senior centers and parks and stuff, we would live there. Secondly, I like what the gentleman, before the lady in front of me brought up about we have to always have a seat that represents the Harlem residents because we're drastically different. And for the lady right before me, the same thing. We don't understand what this issue is with utilities that you're mentioning because we have Delaware County water, sewer, those sort of things. So we don't see where we need help from Westerville for that stuff. And I can tell you're not able to explain it here. So if you can just let us understand that better in some written form, that would be helpful.
Okay, well, I don't have an answer for that. What I do know is in the discussion, one of the things we learned through the course of the last 2 years in our conversations with Delco is at the outset when we were doing these zoning plans and the overlay districts and thinking about how we could work with developers with some of these larger potential developments, but not being high density developments. We were working under the assumption that water was readily available. And in our ongoing conversations through our infrastructure team, what we have learned is that Delco doesn't have necessarily the water that they led us to believe a year or so ago. So that really puts a crimp on the ability for future development if we don't find a solution for that. I can't hear you.
I appreciate the answer, but I don't think the response, I don't think that it answers the question exactly because you're looking at growth, right? You're trying to increase growth and you don't have proper supply with Delaware. So you're trying to increase growth into Harlem Township by merging with Westerville to get the supply from there, is what I hear you saying.
There's going to be growth anyway. It's not like we're going to shut growth down. And to support any form of growth, we're going to have the utility capabilities.
Yeah, we need something in writing, something that explains this and how, like, what was the challenge? And then what was the criteria you used to go out and find solutions to that? It feels like Westerville is happy to get us, but we're not happy to get them, right?
I want to take you back, and I'm sorry, I know it's getting late, but I want to take you back to August of 2022 and working all the way through the community meetings, this time last year. And we have always said that the sewer is coming. We always thought the water was going to be there. What Steve is saying is the water isn't going to be there, but the sewer is coming. So if we don't have a solution to the water, then that water can be brought up from the south very easily, and you're gonna grow no matter what. So go back to thinking about those meetings that we had over the last 18 months. You're gonna grow. So you have to be able to respond and be prepared for that. And if you don't have somebody that's gonna provide the water that has the vision that you have, you're gonna get it from the other areas that you do not have that same vision. So you're gonna get growth no matter what.
Okay, I still think we need to see the things that I mentioned, so we can sit and do the stare and compares, right? We're more at a like for like match to a Sunbury, a Galena, something like that. Was that an option? Not an option? Is it Johnstown? Is it something else? But because we're being dwarfed and Westerville is landlocked, they'd be happy to have us.
The thing is, first, the water, on the water question real fast, Galena doesn't have water. That was one of the reasons why they would move aside. They did not and would not agree to a non-annexation. That's why they were moved aside. Sunbury is coming along like a freight train annexing. And I don't, and they don't, they're having trouble handling their infrastructure stuff now as it is.
That's the definition of uncontrolled growth.
Yeah, that's uncontrolled growth. I mean, we have, the only reason, the primary reason, because Westerville has abundance of water. And that is one of the biggest things we are lacking. And right now, we thought Delco had the water, they don't. And if we can't give a developer what they want to develop, and if they so choose, and they own the land, they so choose, they could look at Columbus or New Albany and say, hey, can you get me the water? Can you get me the sewer? I want my land annexed to them.
Last and final.
I appreciate you allowing me in my orange jacket. So there was a touch on the overlay districts, and I'm specifically want to know if the trustees will commit to do away with some of the overlay districts, specifically the one that allows industrial development along Ringcook Road, if this merger goes through. Because when you passed that, you said that it was because it was a defensive move to try to keep New Albany from coming across County Line Road. If we merge, we're going to be in Westerville. So there's no need for the quote defensive move, and we don't have to puke industrials into Harlem Township. We can keep it residential.
Well, I think you asked the trustees, so I can't really answer for the trustees.
We've never even thought of that. We can discuss it. And I don't even know what the logistics and the legalities would be. I would have to get a hold of it.
The trustees would appeal it before you were disbanded.
Yeah, I understand. I would investigate the legalities and how that would be able to happen. So I can't say, I'm not going to say yes until I know I can say yes that we can do it.
The one last thing is that we had several questions about people with specific questions about specific properties. We didn't feel like we should get into specific property answers in a group setting. So feel free to come up with one-on-one and we can talk about the specific property.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to bring it to a close. Thank you for your participation tonight, and I want to call make the closing comment. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for being respectful. I know this is a hot topic, and it's going to continue to be a hot topic. I'm going to ask one favor of everybody in this room and anybody that's out there. Please, get the facts, get 100% knowledge, make your decision, In November, you're gonna be able to walk in and either go yes or no. But have all the facts. You don't get the facts from Nextdoor, don't get the facts from Facebook. Contact this committee, contact somebody that is working with you. Other than that, thanks everybody for being here.